Saber-toothed tigers, they are just cute little babies.
Just like Ice Age.
He was a full-grown, or did he have kids?
Oh, no, I got that backwards. It's the human baby. And it's called Saber-toothed tiger. We can just cut that out.
What's good? Thank you so much for tuning in to another episode of the Newest Olympian. My name is Mike Schubert. I'm the titular Newest Olympian. I'm a 30-year-old man who never read the Percy Jackson books as a kid, but I'm reading them as an adult because I'm on a quest to determine if this is a book series that we have been sleeping on as a society. But I'm not on this quest alone. I'm joined again by big Percy Jackson fan, big podcast boy, in person with me. Now for the second time in person, look at us go. It is the co-host and co-creator of Tipping Pitches and a podcast producer for The Ringer, Bobby Wagner. How is it going?
I'm back like I never left. Shubes, what's up, dude?
It is like you never left. It's almost as if we just both went to the bathroom, refilled our waters, and got back in to record some more.
The magic of podcasting.
We had a quick off-mic talk about the Mets and the Yankees so that we wouldn't do it again on the show and angering all the people. We got it out of our system.
We are who we are. Much like Kesha said, we are who we are.
Thank you for the Kesha reference. Thank you.
You're
now it'll allow me to make a Kesha tangent, which is what we're doing in the place of this episode instead of the what's your history with the books and who's your godly parent. In college, I had a roommate who had a very big Kesha poster that was given to him as a gift.
That's sick.
It's great. And I had a big Justin Bieber poster on the ceiling. That was also given to me as a gift.
Also sick.
So Kesha poster we put on the wall where the recycling bin was so that anytime we took an empty alcohol container, it was a peace offering to the goddess Kesha. And Justin Bieber was just on the ceiling. And I remember it was like the first weekend of the year, there was some like freshman crawl happening at Rice because we could drink on campus and in the dorms. We would, instead of having like bar crawls out, you would have dorm crawls where people would there were 11 residential colleges instead of the Greek life. So you'd have some sort of themed crawl. There'd be one stop at each of the colleges. So the people who lived across the bathroom from us were freshmen. And it was like a suite thing connected by a bathroom.
Yeah.
And they asked us like, hey, we're going to have the crawl come through at like 9. Is it cool if we kind of like spill over into your room? It'll only be like 20, 30 minutes. So we're like, yeah, no big deal. We're going out later. Chill. So these freshmen come in and they see our room, and it's people we have never heard of before. I mean, my friends are playing Mario Kart 64 on our TV. As you do.
I still play that, bro.
It's so good. It's the best one.
I got it on the Switch now.
Ooh.
You can play the N64 games on Switch. Yeah. It's a game changer.
Gotta get it.
The amount of Mario Golf's N64 that I've played in the last 2 months is unhealthy.
When my roommates and I realized that to play the first Grand Prix of Mario Kart takes exactly 15 minutes, that was bad news bears, because anytime we had free 15 minutes.
It's like one episode of SpongeBob, dude.
So we're playing Mario Kart. These people come in. They're like talking, drink, or whatever. These freshmen come across. They see the posters, and this one dude goes, you have a Kesha poster and a Justin Bieber poster?
Get him out of the club.
That's weird.
Boot him out of the club.
We pause the game. Me and my 2 roommates turn in unison, and we all just say some sort of variations of, get the out of my house.
Here. Get out of here.
Leave. We're like, get out. And they were like, what? We're like, leave. Get out. You get out. You cannot stay.
It's so disrespectful.
So disrespectful. Who do you think you are? We were juniors and seniors. You're a freshman coming in, making fun of our very cool poster. Get out of here.
Dude, you got to learn how to brush your teeth with Jack Daniels.
This was 2013. This was
peak Kesha.
Yeah. This is TikTok.
Just about to change the game with Pitbull.
This was when TikTok meant a good song and not a bad app. Come on. Ugh. Anyway, now that my get off my lawn moment is out of my system, we can get into Percy Jackson. And speaking of TikTok, I did start a TikTok for the Newest Olympian, but by I mean Sherry and I, because I'm taking the Rick Riordan approach to social media with TikTok, where I just take videos and then I send them to Sherry and she makes TikToks out of the videos. So I don't know how many will be posted by the time this episode comes out. We do have a presence on TikTok, but it's not me. Never downloaded it. Never will. Vine till I die.
I just got to say, as one white guy to another white guy, you got to watch your sunglasses use and your mic angle placement so that you don't come off as one of those like alt-right ranters when you're doing like the selfie videos. That's my advice to you for your TikTok presence.
Don't worry. This one, it was in a car and I was doing a thing because it was when we were in St. Louis and I made a arch-related joke. Yes. But yes, I will. Thank you for the advice. I will make sure that I don't look alt-righty. Not a vibe I'm going for. Anyway, we are clearly here to discuss Percy Jackson the books, and we are going to continue through chapter 9, which is called I Learned How to Grow Zombies. We've not seen the zombies yet. We will see the zombies soon. Where we last left our hero Percy. He was sneaking in on the villain meeting, and we had just been introduced to the general, and we learned that he's not the CGI guy from the Shaquille O'Neal commercials. The general tells Thorne that Thorne has already failed him and generally makes Thorne look weak and unassuming. Generally. Well, I wrote that, and after I wrote it, I was like, oh, nice. This is a contrast to before when Percy was really scared of him. Percy now really doesn't fear Thorne as much. He feels like someone playing a pretend soldier, whereas the general just feels like he was born to lead and command people.
Yeah.
The general calls out Thorne's failure, and he reveals that he, as the general, is Kronos' senior commander, which, okay, cool. Sounds like a made-up title, but you do you.
Everybody's giving themselves titles these days. I'm like the senior VP of commanding the evil army. Pay raise.
I run into this with the podcasting because I don't know what to say because I do like almost everything for the show. So like, I don't know what to call myself.
I'm the senior commander of Tipping Pitches now. I'm just making that.
There you Hey, yeah. Alex will find out in a couple weeks when this goes live. Tough break, Alex. You know, you found out the hard way. So he tells Thorne to leave until he gives him another menial task to do. And I wrote, Scullion? Look at us learning. The general then tells Luke that they must isolate Thalia so that the monster comes to her. Luke says the hunters will be difficult to dispose of, and after he mentions Zoe Nightshade by name, the general tells him not to do so, and we've already discussed how intriguing it is. All of the things that we're learning about Zoe, this is even more intriguing because I don't think that we have heard the don't say their name thing for demigods before. I don't think anyone's ever said don't say Percy Jackson. Usually when monsters know who he is, they call him full name Perseus Jackson. Mm-hmm. So I don't know what's going on with Zoe where saying her name is a concern, but I do have a theory. And this is what you heard me gasp really significantly at when I was finishing up my reading before recording.
I should have been videotaping that.
I mean, there was some great stuff, but it's okay. I'm not going to make you work for my social media stuff.
I was too busy tweeting.
Look, it's important. So here's what I wrote. She's got to have a godly parent. And I wrote this in the lowercase. Then I switched to caps lock. Is she a daughter of Hades or Kronos or someone evil? I guess I should just quote my notes. She's got to have a godly parent. OMG, is she like a daughter of Hades or Kronos or something? OMG, her and Chiron are really similar. Wait, OMG, wait. Does Kronos kill her? And that's the prophecy? Maybe it's not Bianca, like I said before? I mean, it just feels like that could be something. I still don't know the general, what he is, just like as a entity.
At this point,
I have no idea, but like it feels like there's some evil ties with Zoe.
But at this point, the general's introduction has been so vague that he's not, like Rick is not giving so much away as to what role he's going to be playing in this, right? Because you don't know exactly why the general is the senior commander self-made title that he is, because you already know that Luke is playing a large role in this, and he kind of has like nothing to do with Kronos before all of this, you know, like not that he has nothing to do with it, but he's not the most obvious person to play a role in all of this. And so it's keeping you a little bit on your heels about who is related to what and what is coming in terms of why people are so sensitive about saying names when up until this point, that's been something that's been reserved for gods.
Right. I'm also now wondering, thinking of the general, thinking of me last night playing pinball with Kelly at Barcade, playing Avengers Infinity Quest, was that with Thanos, all of the people that were kind of beneath him one rung were all his kids. So it could be a situation where the general is maybe a son of Kronos, but a not god son. So maybe he's like a demigod son of Kronos, because clearly Kronos can have any sort of kid if he can have a centaur kid. So anything's an option. So it could be a situation where the general is Kronos' kid, making Zoe the general's sibling or half sibling or something. Maybe that's why he also has some beef with Zoe. But that could be my thought. And then we do have the part of the prophecy that says someone's going to die by the hand of their parent. So maybe it's even like a grandpa situation. Maybe Zoe is the general's kid who is the kid of Kronos. So maybe Kronos is her grandparent, or maybe Kronos comes and Kronos kills Zoe. But it feels like that could be the situation. And though that would be sad because now I'm invested in Zoe, it would be better, given that Phoebe's not on the quest anymore. I feel like it'd be better than Bianca dying, because at least Zoe's lived a life. Clearly, she's been around for 70,000 years.
Since cars were invented.
Right, since cars were invented in the prehistoric era, in the Jurassic era. But that could be the thing that just made me think, and it's very intriguing. It's very, very interesting.
All of that to say that you've been with Zoe for 100 pages now, but you're already very invested.
I know, and I didn't like her for a good chunk of those pages.
Yeah.
But I'm super duper intrigued, and I do love that every time you come on the podcast, something happens where I take a big swing prediction. So that would be my guesses there. Zoe is related to Kronos and / or the General. Because, we had things where it said her and Chiron were really similar. So, they have the same reactions. They give each other knowing looks. She was kind of rude to Chiron, as if, sometimes you get a pass to be a little more rude and direct with people in your family. Or at least people you have a history with. I don't know, man. I don't know. So then the general begins to explain the plan to clear out the hunters. He asks a guard if he has, quote, the teeth. And when the guard confirms, the general tells him to plant them. And I was like, oh, right, the zombies. Do the teeth turn into zombies? And then I remembered Jason and the Argonauts. Have you seen this movie, or do you know what I'm referring to?
I have seen the movie in a high school mythology class.
Nice.
But don't remember what you're referring to. So please enlighten me.
I have not seen the movie, but it gets referenced in, I think, The Lightning Thief. And my guest, Stephen Parr, told me, here's the clip. You should watch it. It's really funny because it's like one of the earliest instances of a special effect thing because they use some sort of stop motion, but skeletons rise out of the ground. Mm-hmm. And then Jason has to fight off the skeletons. I don't know who summoned them in the movie. I don't know what's going on there. But I just know zombie skeletons is a thing. So my initial thought here was, are they going to plant the teeth? And then from the teeth, are zombie skeleton things going to rise? And initially, no. But eventually, yes. I don't know if it's the same thing as Jason and the Argonauts or if it's just a coincidence that there's two Greek-based things with zombie skeletons that rise out of the ground. But I would guess that they're probably inspired by the same thing.
Yeah, it feels like some kind of mythological connection in terms of the magic and the ability that they have to do this type of thing.
Yeah. What's confusing, though, is that Percy makes the Jason and the Argonauts reference in the first book, but then doesn't make it in this book when it feels quite apparent to make it.
Listen, he's got a lot going on.
Yeah,
he's got a lot on his mind.
He's a busy boy. After a bit of back and forth where Luke tries to prove his worth against the general, basically giving him that's very cute, we'll put it on the fridge, let's get you to bed, grandma, aspect of Luke's cog in this whole machine. He then tells Luke to behold his army, and creatures begin to grow from where the teeth were planted. One is a tiger kitten, and then there are a dozen tiger kittens. And everyone is very confused, causing the general to erupt in anger, saying, "What is this? Cute, cuddly kittens? Where did you find those teeth?" I really need to nail my general voice. I keep going all over the place with it, but he's super upset. Apparently, the guard who took them from the saber-toothed tiger exhibit and not the T-Rex exhibit, to which I thought, are they going to have a T-Rex army? That's wild if so. But what we can realize is that these teeth are not making fully formed saber-toothed tigers. They are just cute little babies, which is adorable. And again, merchandise opportunity for Disney, little plushies. Come on.
Yeah.
So the general sends out this dude with the kittens and tells another to get the correct teeth now.
Incredible laugh line. Like that these people are so disorganized while also potentially maybe ending the entire world.
I mean, look, henchmen, they just don't make them like they used to. So the general calls them imbeciles, and Luke says that's why he doesn't use mortals, since they are unreliable. But then the general says, as you referenced in our last episode, quote, "They are weak-minded, easily bought, and violent." I love them. And I mean, not an incorrect way to qualify humans.
Just in one line, boiling down the role that humans play throughout history, like in the reading of history in these novels. Like, it's a very simple, cuts straight to the core, but also it's hard to deny those accusations as a mortal myself.
He absolutely ethers the human race in one line. And if you look at some other franchises like Batman, where people are just corrupt and it's usually just money or blackmailing or something, that's usually all it takes. And yeah. I don't know. I do wonder for these mortals that they're hiring, are there really good benefits? Is there really good money? Like, what's the draw for, hey, you're going to end the world?
And they kind of hand wave that in the book, to be honest. They're kind of like, later on they asked about what's in it for them. What do they see? What do they think they're doing? And they're just kind of like, they're just driven by money. I'm like, so are these like black site operatives? Are these like CIA dudes? Like, I just have a lot of questions.
Yeah, is there a job posting on the dark web version of Indeed or evil LinkedIn, which I guess is just LinkedIn?
Did they just handpick these dudes out of Area 51? Like, what's going on?
Now I'm imagining a montage scene of getting this group together, but it's just a bunch of incompetent mortals. So this other guard returns with the new teeth, and the general jumps down off of the 20-foot balcony, and when he lands, he cracks the floor. Very cool entrance, but he doesn't stick the landing because then he complains about his stiff neck. And I thought two things. Either this is a reference that's going over my head because it's some Greek thing where he got stabbed in the neck by, Brad Pitt's character from Troy. Because that's the thing I remember most from that movie is when he just jabs the dude in the neck. Either it's a reference to something that would make it some sort of clue that I just don't know because I'm not well versed in Greek stuff.
Right.
Or maybe it's going to be some sort of clue that Percy remembers later is, this guy's got a bad neck. And it's the video game thing of, this is the red flashing area. Yeah.
Brad Pitt's character from Troy, isn't that Achilles?
Yes.
Pretty sure that's Achilles.
Yes.
He's a famous one.
Yep. That is correct. Look, I
just checking.
It started off as me making a cool reference, and then you called me out on not knowing that it was Achilles. Been a little bit since I've watched the film.
It's pretty good. It's not bad.
So here's something that I found very interesting. The general then says, dinosaur teeth? Ha! Those foolish mortals don't even know when they have dragon teeth in their possession. And not just any dragon teeth, any in italics. These come from the ancient Sybaris? Sybaris herself. They shall do nicely. And I think it's so good because I don't remember what I was watching or who I was talking to, but I feel like very recently I either had or heard a conversation about how dinosaur skeleton bones, like, who the hell knows if we're right? Right?
Yeah.
It's like, who knows if it's correct? I can't remember what it was from, but I do think it's funny when Rick does these sorts of things in the book where mortal things are mistaken Greek things and humans, mortals, are just too silly to recognize. I think this is a really fun twist.
Yeah, I like it a lot. And it's also like one of the better examples of like the two worlds crossing over in an interesting way. Like I think sometimes if you think too hard about the compatibility of like what we know to be true about the human world and what we're being told about the ways that the Greek mythological world interacts with that, it doesn't work. But then to think about the fact that we're like putting on display these things that are incredibly powerful and that the humans don't understand that they're actually like, from dragons and whatnot, not just like the dinosaurs, the stories that we've told ourselves. It's funny. It's flipping the paradigm on itself a little bit, I think.
Yeah, I think it's really funny and it's always fun. And I hope it continues throughout the series because it's just always a good bit. It's always going to work. So the general plants the seeds and he waters them and he commands them to rise. And he asks one of the snake ladies if they have the scent, and they confirm and they show a scarf of silvery fabric like the hunters have. And the general says that once these beasts catch a whiff, they will hunt them down relentlessly. And he says that no weapons known to Half-Blood or Hunter can stop them. And narrator Percy then says, quote, as he said that, skeletons erupted from the ground. And my first question here was, okay, skeletons make sense based on the Jason and the Argonaut stuff. Mm-hmm. But if you plant saber-toothed tiger teeth and baby saber-toothed tigers come, when you plant dragon/dinosaur teeth, why do skeletons grow?
It's an unanswerable question.
I wonder if it's a thing of the Greek teeth have this one particular thing, but then the non-Greek stuff, like if I just bury some teeth, will I get a baby version of a regular thing? Like if I buried a dog's teeth, do I get a puppy?
I'm willing to try. I love puppies.
I also think that there is some sort of magical liquid that they have to use because I feel like they make some sort of reference to either a red can or red liquid that the general poured on it.
That is like almost like blood-like or something like that.
Yeah. So maybe it's more about that. But I was just confused and I've referenced this a lot in the podcast. It's one of the SpongeBob starfish plus sponge equals clam ? How does dragon/dinosaur teeth equal skeletons? Yes. I think the skeletons are cool, but I was just like, huh? What? Huh?
Yeah, exactly. And the skeletons, from the moment that they appear and the way that they're talking about them, it's big trouble.
Yeah, dude.
Like, there's been plenty of times where this ragtag group of demigods has come across challenges that other demigods have seen and conquered in the past. It's weaving in references to Medusa. It's weaving in references to the Furies. But these are things that you know that they can beat. And from the very beginning of this, which I think is an effective storytelling tactic, it's like, you guys are on the run. You can't beat these. Not even Riptide is going to help you in this situation. And I think that is just like a heightening of the stakes that we haven't really seen that often in the series so far.
Right. And to make sure that it really is driven home, it's not like the general says they won't know how to defeat them or they can't conquer them. It's just, there is nothing you can do.
Yeah.
You're screwed.
Yeah.
And it made me wonder even more what the general's deal is, because specifically he said no weapons known to mortals or demigods. My thought was, all right, bud, what are you then? Where do you fit into the spectrum here of being able to take these people down? So narrator Percy says that the skeletons erupted from the ground, and then he continues, there were 12 of them, one for each tooth the general had planted. They were nothing like Halloween skeletons or the kind you might see in cheesy movies. These were growing flesh as I watched, turning into men, but men with dull gray skin, yellow eyes, and modern clothes. The clothes growing, I think, is so interesting. Gray muscle shirts, camo pants, and combat boots. If you didn't look too closely, you could almost believe they were human, but their flesh was transparent and their bones shimmered underneath like X-ray images. Terrifying.
Yeah, a really good
Nightmare
description.
Fuel.
But also, if you didn't look too closely, I feel like I notice when people's skin is not transparent and when it might be transparent.
Yeah, when they have shiny bones and stuff.
Yeah, yellow eyes. Some jaundice going on there.
The other thing this description reminded me of, have you seen the movie Warm Bodies?
Yes.
When they have the bonies, like the evil zombies that are past the point of return? It kind of reminded me of that. But those, I think, are a little more skeleton-y. These fall a little more human-y than the bonies, which is still such a funny name for a group of villains.
I like that they specified that they're wearing like muscle t-shirts too.
And combat boots.
Combat boots, like just to make it like a little more intimidating, I guess, like suns out, guns out for these dudes.
The vibe is always a strong element to Rick Riordan's writing. He needs to make sure that people fit the part. Ares is on a motorcycle with biker gear and stuff, you know, always got to have the vibe correct, and clothes go a long way. Mm-hmm. So one of them looks Percy directly in the eye, and he can tell that the cap is not going to work on them. A snake lady then drops down the scarf from the balcony, and Percy thinks to himself, look, if they get a hold of this, we are screwed. So he runs and jumps and grabs it out of the air, and the general calls out that there's an intruder. Luke knows that it has to be Percy Jackson. A skeleton then rips Percy's sleeve and smells it. Devastating. Devastating.
Yep.
And Percy squeezes through the door before the guards can successfully close it to try to trap him inside, which is what the general wanted them to do. And then the only line we get from Percy is he goes, and then I ran.
Yes.
It's so good.
I ran so far away. That's our obligatory singing a song, which we did on both episodes that I appeared in for The Lightning Thief. Mm-hmm. And you made a Kate Bush reference last episode. We're keeping
music
the streak
references
going,
in,
my man.
baby. Keeping it alive.
At this point, something about Percy that really stood out to me in this moment that I think has obviously been building and has even been, I think, textual at points throughout the series so far, is that what makes him so relatable, empathetic king, as you've described him as. In Greek mythology, they have like a term for it that I don't know very well, but I think it's called hamartia.
Oh, yeah. I think it's hamartia.
Yeah, hamartia, or however you pronounce it. Please don't at me about that.
I think it was just a teacher said it that way to me one time, so if that's wrong, blame my teacher. Tweet at them, please.
That I think makes you love him so much, but also at the same time, you can see how he would have a downfall. He can't leave himself out of a situation that might affect his friends. Like, he has to jump in there. The first thing he thinks to do is to go take the scarf away to protect the other people around him for the betterment of the group. And it makes him really relatable, and it makes him a lovable protagonist in a way that not all protagonists who you spend this much time with turn out to be. But also, like, it makes me worried for him. It makes me worried that he's like setting himself up to fall on the sword for the whole group. And I'm like, Percy, my guy, this is a dangerous situation that you're sprinting into the middle of here, dude.
Yeah, I mean, maybe it's because he knows he doesn't have necessarily the longest to live, that he feels like it is the right choice for him to put his life on the line in these sorts of situations. I think he's just very selfless. It reminds me of some superhero stuff. You'll see this with like Spider-Man or Captain America, where they want to save someone that they're close to or go into a situation that really looks like they're not going to get out of it, but they wouldn't be able to live with themselves if they didn't try to save this person.
Exactly.
So I think Percy just recognizes, like, this is going to be a bad situation. I'd rather have the bad situation happen to me than someone else. And that's inspiring. Yeah. It really is.
It is. It is.
Let's take a little bit of a break here for the Titan's Purse before we get into chapter 10. Woo! Hello and welcome to the Titans Purse. First, I would like to thank every single person who came either in person or via live stream replay to the first ever TNO live show. There were so many people there. It was absolutely ridiculous. So many people watched the stream and the replay, and it was so fantastic. And this will set us up for future success and the ability to do lots of live shows in the future. So thank you so much for turning out. And thanks to all the folks who showed up for the half Potterless, half TNO show we did 1 week later. These events were both so successful, and I cannot thank you all enough. I really appreciate it, and I cannot wait to do more live shows in the future, hopefully international shows as well. Really excited for the future of doing lots of TNO live shows. There's a few more half and half shows on the books for the rest of the year. We are coming to Salt Lake City and Portland, Oregon, and Dallas, Texas. If you want tickets, you can go to thenewestolympian.com/live. And another thing just to keep your eye out for, we've got new merch in the works, lots of different types of merch, from pins to shirts to digital items to maybe posters as well. Some of the sweet posters that we had at the show might also be available for sale online. So keep an eye out. Follow us on social media at Newest Olympian on Twitter and Instagram so you will know once that merch goes live. But it's coming soon, in the next week or so. I'd also like to thank all the folks who joined the Patreon, especially the folks who joined for our Hades stream and those who tuned in to the Hades stream. Me and Stephen Parra had a wonderful 3 hours playing Hades with all of you. Shout out to all the people who joined live or watched after the fact. If you go to thenewestolympian.com/Patreon and you join at any tier, you can watch that replay. It was 3 hours of goofiness. Kelly baked blue chocolate chip cookies and got a bunch of blue snacks. It was a very fun time, and you can still get access to all of that at thenewestolympian.com/Patreon. And speaking of the Patreon, I want to thank 50 of the newest members. Again, so many people joined recently that we are doing the 50-person cap. So thank you all so much for supporting the show and making my weird job a little more normal, and for making the Hades stream such a success. It will certainly be the first of many. Can't wait to keep doing these every couple of months or so with Steven. So shout out to your newest Ultra God tier patron, Miss Zeus's Kid. Shout out to your newest Mega God tier patron, Adam Churweech. Shout out to your new Super God tier patrons, R. Waters, Kale Thomas, Mickey, Tori Crisp, Villanuevas, and Nicola Bodecker. Shout out to your newest God tier patrons, Heather Juedes, Obi-Wan Kenobi, Chelsea Jennings, Teresa Schroeder, Abigail Stahl, Artemis Turned Me Into a Jackalope, Yukameep Eats Waffles, Elizabeth Fuentes, Sally Jackson's #1 fan, Lily, James Eagle, Jacqueline Van Bronckhorst, Abdi Isak, Jacob, Emi Sivanen, Alyssa Hickman, Nicole H., and Carmen Terrio. And shout out to your newest demigod tier patrons, Jenna Huddleston, Ashley, Diamonds and Jewels, Darby Campbell, Percy Smackson, Wise Girl the Bean with 3 exclamation points, Reed Shaftstall, Bearded Shark, Kathleen A., Rachel Carmona, Chess Jess, Ella Torrecampo, Kemian Carson, Rain, Joseph Powers, the newest Olivia, Neva Sanders, Infinite, Odeb John, Rachel Weinberg Rue, Paula, The Damn T-Shirt, Tracy, Lidlid, The Terrible Kid, and Katrin Mills. Thank you so much. May Demeter and Hephaestus team up to bless all of your plants in Stardew Valley to yield many money. I recently started playing, I don't know what the money's called. What's the G stand for? Who's to say? I hope your crops are great. And finally, before we wrap up here, you're going to hear words from a few sponsors who make it feasible for me to be a full-time podcaster. Some of these ads will be read by me, others of them won't. The ones that are not read by me are inserted locally, so if you live in Austria, don't be surprised if you hear an Austrian-related ad. And once those ads are complete, we'll get back to this episode of The Newest Olympian. And we're back. Chapter 10 is called I Break a Few Rocket Ships. My guess here was pretty easy. I figured they would fight whatever the aforementioned monster was, the little plaything, and then they'd break some rocket ships. And I nailed it. Woo, big tough guess for me, baby. Real hard one for me to predict. So Percy rushes across the mall and he enters the Rocket Museum and he takes off his cap. It's not crowded because it's cold, school's out, and he literally runs into Thalia, proving he would not be a very good invisible sneaky guy.
Yes.
Grover is shocked. Zoe and Bianca have him at arrow point, and then when Zoe realizes who he is, she gets very upset. Grover is very happy to see Percy, but then when Zoe shoots him a look of anger, he goes, gosh, you're not supposed to be here. Grover is so pure. I'm such a fan.
He just wears his heart on his sleeve, man.
Love it. Such a good friend, that Grover. Percy tries to catch his breath, but he gets out after kind of panting and deep breathing that Luke is here. Thalia's anger immediately washes away, and she asks, where? And Percy lets them know everything that happened, recaps the whole situation, and Zoe is in disbelief that the general is here, which again makes me think that there is some sort of tie. Even if they're not related, they definitely have some sort of history, and maybe that disbelief was she recently defeated him, monster rules, he's supposed to be gone, he shouldn't be back so quickly, or maybe it is a situation like with Kronos where we chopped him into pieces and spread him out, there's no way he's back. I feel like Zoe, even if she's not related, she knows more about this dude, and she doesn't think him being here is a possibility.
Yeah. It's a little bit like the Doomsday Clock, where like these successive challenges that they are facing as they are getting more and more grave, and like these, it's like a little bit of a level up. Like we're actually closer to this big blowout fight than we maybe thought we were.
Yeah.
By the fact that we're seeing these people react stronger and show like more surprise about these successive challenges that they're facing.
And it's really interesting for me currently reading this, not knowing a lot of the stuff about it, because I don't know this dude's history. I don't know who else is in play. I don't even know like what he is. I don't know how they fit into the big thing of Kronos. We still don't know what the Titan's curse is. Like there's so much happening, and we're halfway through the book. Like there's 20 chapters. We're in chapter 10, and it appears like some big bad stuff is going down. We still got a lot of book left.
Yeah.
It's intense. So Percy then relays to them that there are 12 skeleton warriors, and that worries Thalia, but Percy says that they also have to worry about the Playmate. And Grover then realizes that
Still no.
Grover then realizes that he had been following Artemis's trail, and Artemis, who way back said that she had to follow the monster, and I wondered, is this some other monster, or is she talking about Thorn? She must have been talking about this plaything, because Grover then realizes, okay, she must have been following the trail of this. It brought her to DC. We followed her. She must have stopped here before whatever happened. Maybe DC is where she got captured because they set up base here. I'm not really sure what the whole west of it all, but at least Grover identifies why the tracking acorn trick brought them here. And Bianca is very nervous about the general, and she starts to tell Zoe if it is him, meaning I feel like he was in the dream maybe, because we know that Bianca knows Zoe's dream details and was saying that she should share them with Thalia.
Yeah.
Maybe that's what's going on. But Zoe refuses to believe that it could be him. She thinks it's an illusion. And then Percy says illusions can't break marble floors, which, yeah, I mean, yes. Unless we're going Mysterio rules in Spider-Man where they've got drones shooting stuff. For the most part, illusions can't break marble floors.
Correct.
So Percy's confused as to why Zoe is taking it so personally. I've already got my reasons as to why. But he knows that now is not the time to ask. He's a sympathetic king. He's an empathetic king. He's an aware king. He knows when to push, when to not. He understands
He's a practical
timing.
king.
Yes. Yes, he is. Zoe takes a breath and then levels with them that if Percy is right about the skeletons, that they got to get out of here ASAP. So the general has talked about how terrifying these things are. Zoe, who is not one for taking things lightly, and she's also a very confident person. If she's worried about the skeletons, I'm worried about the skeletons.
Yeah.
And she says that they are the worst and the most horrible things that you can deal with. So definitely sounds like they are not fun. Percy says it's a good idea. Zoe says, you're not part of our group. I don't know what you're talking about. Thalia
You don't have a vote.
Thalia says Percy shouldn't be here, but since he is now, he might as well go with them. And she orders everyone to go to the van. And Zoe says that this is not Thalia's call to make. And Thalia says that Zoe is not the boss of everyone just because of her age. And then she calls her a conceited brat, which again feels a little unnecessary.
Yes, I think you described her as coming off a little bit like a stick in the mud at first. But at this point, and maybe Thalia is like too in the thick of it to realize it. But at this point, I think that as a reader, you can give Zoe the benefit of the doubt that there's a reason that she's behaving this way. She knows something. She has some kind of wisdom based on the hints that she's giving, based on her confidence in certain situations and her knowledge of certain situations, that she has more knowledge and background and wisdom than all of these people combined. And so, yeah, I mean, Thalia acting that way, like, who among us has not thought that they had the right idea?
Yeah. It does also, again, making me more intrigued about Zoe. It does make me wonder what Thalia and Zoe's backstory is, because clearly they have some sort of history.
And attention, yeah.
So, yeah, we don't really know what's going on there. I don't know. There's a lot of stuff that I want to learn, and maybe we'll have a situation where they escape danger and we get a bit of a we're traveling west and maybe we learn more. It feels like Zoe is currently mimicking the Annabeth path from the second book, where she definitely knew some stuff, but then didn't say things. But then Percy, and I love that he does this, every couple of chapters will be like, hey, you know how this thing happened? And I didn't ask you about it a couple of chapters ago because it wasn't the right time.
Me here.
Is now the right time? And I'm hoping Percy does that for Zoe.
Yeah.
Zoe, after being called a conceited brat, says that Thalia has no wisdom when it comes to boys, says that she could never leave them behind. And this feels like a Luke reference, which does feel like kind of a low blow. Zoe,
but also, is she being a truth teller a little bit?
Yeah, but I guess the only thing is, I don't know if Thalia had a crush on Luke. I mean, maybe. He's dreamy and older. How could you not? So maybe that's what it was. But it does feel like Zoe, given her place as a hunter, someone that has no romantic interest at all, it does feel like she is implying that with this.
Right. And also an important manifestation of the distinction of the two different versions of Luke, too, where because Zoe doesn't have as much of a personal connection to it, she can look at it more practically and think like, this is the Luke that we have to face now. It's no longer the guy that you were on quests with. It's no longer the guy who you were in Camp Half-Blood with. Like, we need to be realistic about the situation.
And maybe because she doesn't like the whole romanticism of boys and everything, maybe Zoe in her mind thinks you couldn't see what's inside Luke as being an evil person because you were so infatuated with him.
Yeah.
Maybe she's frustrated of, how could you not see this coming? But people change. It happens.
Yes. And there are grander things at play here, clearly.
Thalia looks enraged, but then they hear a very large growl. And then, in what is going to be so good in the TV show, a kid goes, "Kitty!" And then it's a giant animal, which is just always a great comedic bit. And I cannot wait for the TV show to do this.
What is the timeline on the TV show?
They are currently filming season 1. I want to say they will finish filming in early next year. Okay. I think, because since it is actual kids under 18, that it is going to take a while to go. I want to say late 2023, I think, is when the show's going to come out, but I don't know that a target date has been set yet.
Right.
The longer it takes, the better, because then I'll have the most stuff done, and it will allow me the most time to establish myself as the Percy Jackson podcast that Rick Riordan should totally come on
to promote the TV show.
To promote the TV show. Not that he needs to, but he should.
Well, we've already established that Disney is listening. Disney.
Yeah, Disney, come through.
Get it done.
Come on. Jonathan Disney, reach out to Rick Riordan.
Bob Chapek, please.
Can't even keep up with which Bob is in charge of Disney.
Literally, I know. Literally. It's me next. It's me next.
Oh, okay. Hey.
I'm in line.
You'll have to drop the BY. You're just going to be Bob. Is that ever going to happen? Are you ever going to get to an age where you're like, I can't be Bobby anymore? I'm an old man.
Maybe. Well, probably there will become an age where it feels silly to be called that, but also maybe not. I feel like people still call Robert De Niro Bobby De Niro. He's like 85 now.
Yeah.
Some people do call me Bob just to like save an extra syllable. We already talked about how important saving syllables is.
Not for the British folks. They would call you, Baba Lobby or whatever.
Exactly. They would add more syllables.
Oh, Bibbly Bobby Wagner. So the kid yells Kitty, and narrator Percy says, quote, "Something enormous bounded up the ramp. It was the size of a pickup truck with silver claws and golden glittering fur. I'd seen this monster once before, 2 years ago, in the hit New York Times bestselling novel, The Lightning Thief. 2 years ago, I'd glimpsed it briefly from a train. Now up close and personal, it looked even bigger." Shout out to, I don't know what episode this was in. I don't remember who my guest was. I want to say it was Johnny, but I'm not positive. But shout out to his poker face or accidental poker face, because I asked when he saw a glittering, gleaming lion, is this something that is relevant? Is this some sort of godlike form where a god turns into a lion, kind of like how Hera turns into a peacock, right? And roams around, or Zeus does, or both of them do. I think both of them do. I wondered if this was something, and whoever my guest was, and I think I even asked Dr. Moya, they were just like, nah, it's just, when he learns about the mist, he can see more things. And I think it's just kind of like a flavor text of his eyes have been opened. Shout out to them for not revealing anything, because when I was reading this, as you saw, I literally gasped and put my hands on my cheeks like I was Macaulay Culkin in Home Alone. What a great reveal, like a 2-book long gap bit. Come on.
Yes. You got to be a very organized person to call back to something that far ago, or it's a plan that far out in advance.
Maybe it was planned. Maybe it was flavor text and it turned into a reference that actually has something. I think this happened in a lot of book series. This definitely happened in Harry Potter. People are like, oh, look at all the seeds the book 2 planted. It's like, maybe look at all the things in book 6. JK was like, oh, what's that thing I wrote before? Oh, yeah, let me do that.
Sure, yeah.
Well, notice how she changed the name of the put outer to the Deluminator when it became important.
Yes.
But I would love to ask Rick Riordan about this if he ever does come on the show. Like, hey, did you know this? Were you hoping to maybe use it? Was it something you just thought of? Because he is organized, but he did admit to the reason that Blackjack is trans icon Blackjack is he forgot he made Blackjack a girl in book 2. One of my guests said this, and I'm trusting my guest, but apparently he just forgot. And Blackjack comes in pretty close to the end of book 2.
I sort of feel like somebody should have caught that in the read through, but maybe not.
Yeah, I mean, like, I don't know what the editing team is really doing, but like, I remembered, which I was like, oh, maybe my book is wrong or something.
Yeah.
And I kept writing she in my notes. But then my guest Sarah was like, no, headcanon trans icon. Yeah, said that, and then trans icon Blackjack, which I'm here for. Love that. But yeah, maybe he's very organized. Maybe he just thought it would be a cool thing to mention. I'm intrigued. Regardless, it's super cool, and it was such a fun reveal.
Yeah.
But yes, Percy says, up close now, it looks bigger. Thalia says that it is the Nemean Lion and instructs them not to move. It then roars so loudly that Percy's hair parts, and Zoe tells them to separate on her mark to keep it distracted. When Grover asks for how long, Zoe says until she thinks of a way to kill it, and then she gives the signal, which is go.
Very vivid imagery here. Very vivid imagery here. Roaring to part your hair. You know exactly what that looks like. That's well written.
It's good stuff. Percy uncaps Riptide. He rolls to the left. Arrows whiz by because Zoe and Bianca are just firing right away. Grover plays a reed pipe song. Love it. Zoe and Bianca then climb up the Apollo shuttle capsule and they fire more arrows. But the arrows are not really working. They are just shattering against the lion's metallic fur. They're breaking. They don't do any damage. The lion then approaches Grover, but Thalia jumps in front of its way and holds up Aegis, and it causes the lion to roar. And it kind of at first looks like it's working, almost as if it was emitting fire. And I'm wondering at this point, is Thalia effectively lion taming the Nemean Lion? Is she going to have a little chair too to get out there and grab a whip? But it looks like it's retreating because it takes some steps back and kind of crouches on its hind legs. But then Percy, and the reason for this is wild, he can tell that it's about to pounce because he has seen a lot of cat fights in his alley in New York City. What is he talking about?
I mean, it's a New York City birthright. You're not a New Yorker until you see a cat fight in an alley.
I have never seen cats argue or fight in an alley. I rarely see cats in alleys. I usually see pigeons or rats in alleys. I was very surprised that this was written about like it's a super normal thing. Even if I did see cats fight in the alleys, I don't know that I would be picking up on their cool strategies. I gotta ask Uncle Rick about this because I've never heard anyone say this ever. So it's not even just like I haven't seen this. I've never heard a single person from New York City be like, oh yeah, classic cat fight. What is he talking about?
I don't know, man. I get what he's going for in that it's obvious if you're observing it from the side that this cat is getting ready to pounce because it's like loading its back legs or whatever. But also like, I don't think you need to witness a cat fight for your common sense to tell you that.
Yeah, it feels like if you want to make this reference, maybe Percy could have said he watched a documentary about lions or in science class they learned this. Like there's other ways to have the same realization without making up a New York thing that totally does not exist.
Yes.
Percy then yells, hey, without really knowing his end goal, just kind of realizes there's a problem and has to step in to do something, which I appreciate. And sometimes I do just kind of act knowing something is wrong. I got to change things. I don't really know what I'm going for here, but I got to do something.
Yeah.
And narrator Percy then says that he slashed with Riptide when, he's approaching the lion. The lion's attacking him. But he hits it with a good strike that he says to the flank that should have cut the monster into Meow Mix, but the blade just clanged against its fur in a burst of sparks. And I got to wonder, is this sponsored content? Did Meow Mix pay Rick Riordan to make sure he said that?
Is Meow Mix, that's a name brand?
It's a name brand of cat food. So it's not food made out of cats. So it's not like 100% correct. I still get what he's going for.
No, I get what he's going for, but I didn't know if that was actually the name brand or if it was like something else,
Oh,
like,
it's the one with the really annoying commercial song where they just say meow a lot.
Okay.
Which I won't sing to save everybody's ears.
Now, if it was like, and this slice should have turned him into Purina Pro Plan Meow Mix, $19.99 at your local PetSmart, then I would have been like, hey, Rick, you disclose to the IRS that this was paid in sponsored income.
I do wonder with these sorts of things when you make a name brand reference in the books, like, do you have to clear it? Is it like a sample? If Meow Mix didn't want this association, could they get upset at Rick? I'm always very intrigued.
I feel like no.
Yeah.
Well, I guess you could technically be slandering them if you were saying something bad about the product, but it's pretty obvious that this is fiction based on the fact that these people are the sons and daughters of Greek gods and goddesses.
Yeah, I think he's just making a fun reference and they wouldn't be upset, but I guess if there was some other thing where Percy, I don't know, had a name brand anything and said something bad, it's like, oh, I had a sip of Pepsi and it tasted like butt, then maybe Pepsi could be like, hey.
I had a sip of Pepsi and it killed me.
How'd I die at 16? I drank a glass of Pepsi. My name's Percy Jackson.
This paragraph brought to you by the Coca-Cola Corporation.
I mean, look, they've talked about Dr. Pepper and Coke, and they're separate. Yes. Dr. Pepper's independent, so it's not like it's just one thing here. But yeah, the Meow Mix thing, it was a funny joke, but at the same time, I was like, that's not... okay, anyway. The lion gets Percy quite badly with his claws, and Percy says that he ripped off a chunk of his coat. When did Percy have a coat? Did I misread this? Did I forget this? I don't remember. They said that he didn't pack, so has he been wearing a coat the whole time? I guess... it was cold early on. I'm assuming he had a coat when they arrived at Camp Half-Blood. So was he just wearing it at the time? Did he say he had a coat when he went on the blackjack mission thing, but then he was underwater, but his clothes don't get wet, so it doesn't matter? So maybe he did.
Amazing perk, by the way. Forgot to mention that in last episode.
Dude, so good.
Like, for all of the trauma that you have to go through to get to Camp Half-Blood, for the abandonment issues that you have to deal with your parent being a god who doesn't claim you until you're, 13, 14... a decent trade-off, a decent silver lining is that you could go underwater and your clothes don't get wet, because that's a pretty terrible feeling when you're walking around and you step in a puddle and your socks are wet for 8 hours.
Nothing is worse than a wet sock. It's
brutal.
Bad.
It's brutal.
It's really bad. So yeah, maybe he was still wearing a coat, but I just didn't remember him wearing a coat. And if he was wearing a coat, why was he complaining about being cold? I mean, maybe it was so cold that even the coat didn't do it, but like, I don't know, you gotta get a better coat.
Maybe he had the wrong kind of coat,
I know.
Maybe he was like me in LA, just light jackets only. Light jacket, it's not built for going back east.
Yeah, you got to get a big poof, but not a Canadian Goose, because there's no reason to buy a coat that costs $1,000. You can just get a North Face for a fraction of the price, and it's just as good.
Yes.
You're paying for a patch, and you're paying $1,000.
It's a lot of money.
It's so stupid.
It's like half of a rent payment.
Dude, wild. So Percy is then up against a railing when it lunges at him again, and the way he describes it is 1,000 pounds of beast. And Percy realizes the only thing I can do is jump off this railing. So he does, and he lands on the wing of a silver airplane that is suspended from the ceiling, and the lion then follows. So he jumps to the next lower exhibit to avoid a swipe, and this one is a spacecraft with blades like a helicopter. And the lion roars, and Percy can see its pink tongue and mouth, and he has the same realization as Zoe does, because Zoe then shouts for Percy, and I guess anyone else attacking it, herself, Bianca, to aim for its mouth. It lunges again, the arrows miss. Percy then goes on to the floor exhibit, which is a giant globe, and Percy says, I slid down Russia and dropped off the equator. So a cable of the hanging exhibit that the lion was on snaps when it jumps off, and it starts to swing towards the ground. Percy tells Grover to clear the area to get all of the civilians out of there, and he does. The lion then hops onto this ground exhibit onto the North Pole. Thalia hops down and lands across the globe from Percy, and the lion is trying to decide who to attack. Zoe and Bianca ready their bows, and they call for Percy and Thalia to try to get the lion to open its mouth. And Percy thinks to something that he bought in the gift shop way back when he went to this museum with Sally years ago. Percy tells Thalia to keep it busy, and she does, and then he runs into the gift shop and grabs silver packets from the gift shop. And I was very confused, didn't know what this was. Thalia calls for Percy to hurry, and right after gets swatted away by the lion and knocks into a rocket exhibit. Percy yells to try and get the lion's attention, but that doesn't work, so he throws Riptide like a throwing knife, just bounces off the lion, but it does work to get his attention. Percy then realizes that he's got to charge at the lion, so he does, and he gets up close and he throws a space food pouch. That is what he has grabbed out of the gift shop. He takes a space food pouch and he throws it into its maw, and he notes that it is strawberry parfait flavored, and that
delicious.
First off, maybe tasty. Makes me think of the strawberry milkshake that Percy drank in the second book, and it begins to gag. I've never eaten space food. Have you eaten space food?
No.
Okay.
I feel like that's such a thing, though.
Yeah, I've had dehydrated food when I did a Northern Lights trip in Norway. We went out to like the wilderness, like just the middle of nowhere in a big valley, and we just had those heat and eat packets where you pour boiling water. You close it, you let it sit for a little bit, and then it's just like vague rice and meat kind of stuff. And it was fine. It was 3 a.m. and we needed food.
Does the job. You need calories in your body to continue to be able to stand, right?
Totally did its part, but I've never had any packaged food. I guess I probably drank Tang 1 or 2 times because I grew up in the 90s and they marketed that to kids for some reason with a weird CGI monkey. Or I think they had real monkeys in the commercials too. Did they? I don't remember.
I don't remember.
Oh, yeah, you're too young.
I'm too young.
So after the lion eats this space food, it begins to gag. And Percy remembers, yes, been there before. I ate it and I gagged. And it swallows. It's able to get it down and it looks really angry. Percy then yells, snack time. And then it roars at him. And he just says he throws in an ice cream sandwich. I'm assuming that he means an ice cream sandwich flavored thing or like a dehydrated ice cream sandwich, not just a regular ice cream sandwich, right?
Right. Assumption being that he's moved on to the space food strategy here.
Yeah.
And he's just throwing all space food. I gotta say, should we get the yoga mat out for this one? Is this a little bit of a stretch?
Just what? That it would be ice cream sandwich flavored or that this would
that
work?
he can just throw space food at this lion and it'll eat it and choke on it?
Well, you forget the next line where Percy says, quote, fortunately, I had always been a pretty good pitcher, even though baseball wasn't my game. Before the lion could stop gagging, I shot in 2 more flavors of ice cream and a freeze-dried spaghetti dinner. That sounds quite horrendous. As resident baseball podcaster here on the show, I feel like you can't be a pretty good pitcher and not have baseball be your game. Pitching is really hard. It is not a casual position.
Yes, exactly. Like if you're a good pitcher, you should probably just play baseball because that's where the money is at. Here's where I wrote something that I know that you'll appreciate. I feel like Percy Jackson might be the Nestor Cortez of demigods.
Whoa. Okay, just for reference, Nestor Cortez is a player on my beloved New York Yankees. He has a very cool mustache. He's a lefty. He does all these weird pitching motions where he almost doesn't throw 2 pitches the same way in succession, which just confuses the batters. A standard baseball pitcher, almost the same delivery every time. Nestor does all this weird stuff where he kicks his leg high or quick pitches or throws sidearm or over the top.
Exactly.
And he's very fun. His nickname is Nasty Nestor, and he likes to chew a lot of bubble gum and joke around with his teammates and eat apples when he's not pitching.
And he's become an immediate fan favorite. He's very lovable. And part of that is because he just does things the way only Nestor would do them. And I just feel like that's how Percy fights. I feel like he's just like, no other demigod would be like, let me throw space food down this Nemean lion's throat and that'll work out for me. So, I'm just picturing him as Nestor. For you, Mike. For you, I'm picturing Percy as Nestor.
I really like it. I'm now imagining Percy Jackson with a big old mustache.
I mean, like, he's 14 now. They haven't made explicit mention that he started shaving, so he might start to get that little thin mustache that you get when you're a preteen.
I also appreciate the way he approaches fighting. It's also like the person in a D&D campaign that asks the GM, can I do this? Am I allowed to do this? And then sometimes the GM, depending on how chill they are, agrees or not.
It's probably not in the spirit of the game, but yeah, sure.
But yeah, why don't you roll me, an acrobatics check to see if you can throw space food into its mouth after you just threw your sword like it was a knife? Yeah, I like that he takes the outside the box approach. It's good. It's very, very fun.
It feels like they don't know what's coming.
Yeah, it confuses him.
Probably because he doesn't know what's coming either. He's really flying by the seat of his pants.
Look, if I don't know what I'm doing, they can't know what I'm doing.
Exactly right.
So he throws all this stuff in its mouth. Its eyes bulge. It opens its mouth again to roar in disgust, and then 6 arrows just boom, 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 all in the mouth, and it just falls still. It's done. Alarms are blaring throughout the museum. People are fleeing. The guards are running in panic. Grover helps up Thalia. Zoe and Bianca come down and rejoin them. Zoe calls Percy's strategy interesting. Percy says, hey, it worked, which is very true, and Zoe does not protest. Her silence is approval enough. Percy is correct.
It's all about results, dude.
It's not the journey, it's the destination. The lion starts to melt away like normal, but his fur kind of remains. It starts to shrink, but then it doesn't fully dissolve away in classic monster fashion. Zoe tells Percy to take it, and narrator Percy says, I stared at her. What, the lion's fur? Isn't that like an animal rights violation or something? Zoe says it's a spoil of war, and it is rightly his, but she does say, it is rightly thine. Percy says that Zoe killed it, and then she shakes her head and almost smiles, saying, I think thy ice cream sandwich did that. Fair is fair, Percy Jackson. Take the fur. Which is really cool. And again, Zoe has really had such a come up. I'm a big fan
Yeah.
now. This is a cool moment for her.
She made you work for it, you know? She wasn't just going to give you the benefit of the doubt when you're a hero in a long line of heroes who have let a lot of people down with their behavior.
And what I appreciate, this is something that'll happen in different video games where you do a lot of work to take down the big beast and then someone else gets the final shot. And depending on the game mechanic, sometimes they will get all of the credit or you will just get the assist. I don't know if you've played Horizon Zero Dawn, but there's a point towards the end of the game where you have to fight a really, really big beast with your friends. And it takes a very long time. And I was doing all the work. My friends are helping a little bit, but I'm doing all the work. And I had it down to where it had one more shot to go. And you're a bow and arrow shooter, the main character. So I have my final bow geared up, ready to go. And one of my friends, who definitely pulled his weight the least, gets the final blow. And then he goes, yeah! And I was like, and the thing with this game, you don't get any assists or anything because it's not multiplayer at all. You only get credit if you kill the thing. And I lost out on tens of thousands of experience points, which didn't matter because it was basically the last level. And it doesn't really matter if I level up after the fact. Oh, I was so upset.
It's brutal. It's brutal. It's like you dropped 50, but someone else hit the game winner.
Yeah. So I'm glad that Zoe recognizes, sure, I got the final blow, but you did most of the work. So if there was a Percy Jackson video game, I trust that this game mechanic would be in there. Yes. Truly, Zoe gets the assist here, even though she got the final blow. Percy took care of most of the health bar. Now, Grover says that they have to get out of here because the security guards won't stay confused for long. And I remembered, oh, right, the mist. I wonder what they're seeing. And that was the first time that Percy realized it as well. He says that he noticed for the first time how strange it was that the guards hadn't rushed forward to arrest them. They were scrambling in all directions, not running towards them, going all over the place, as if they were searching for something. And some of them were running into the walls or each other, which is just a very funny visual. And that causes Percy to ask Grover if he did this, if it's not just the mist, or maybe it's Grover controlling the mist. Grover confirms, even though he looks a little bit embarrassed, and he says, quote, a minor confusion song. I played some Barry Manilow. It works every time, but it'll only last a few seconds. Second Barry Manilow reference in the PJO series. Rick has a soft spot for Barry Manilow, clearly.
Does he have a soft spot for Barry Manilow, or does he dislike Barry Manilow? Playing Barry Manilow causes people to run into each other and run into walls. Listen, shout out to Barry Manilow doing his thing. My dad's a big Barry Manilow fan. Mm-hmm. I just have to say, the worst album ever put out into the world is the Barry Manilow Christmas album.
Why is it the worst? Why is it the worst?
Well, it's one of those things where it's so bad that it's good. You just have to listen to it.
Okay, is it classic songs or did he write new songs?
It's classic songs that he changed completely. Like, these are songs that should not be changed. Like, you know, Silver Bells, like, it's a banger.
Don't need to change it.
You know, you don't need to change it.
Baby, It's Cold Outside? Maybe we change it.
Well, yeah, I don't think Baby It's Cold Outside is on there. If it is, I don't think we've ever made it that far.
If there was ever a song that needed a lyrics change.
Exactly. Just check it out, Mike. Just in your spare time, just throw in the Barry Manilow Christmas album.
I'll have to check it out. Yeah. I mean, yeah, the only times we've had Barry Manilow references is in a negative connotation. I think Percy mentions that Sally likes it and he calls it boring music. Mm-hmm. And then we've got this. Maybe Rick's a big Rod Stewart guy, and he's upset that Barry Manilow and Rod Stewart look like identical twins, even though they have very different musical styles.
Percy's wrong for that one, man. Copacabana goes hard.
Is that a Barry Manilow one?
Yeah.
I didn't know that was Barry Manilow. Wow.
Get with it, dude. Get with the show tunes.
Sorry, I didn't think white guy Barry Manilow was Copacabana.
Well, that's fair.
Regardless, though, shout out to Grover for upping his spell game. He has upped the game with his reed pipes. He's got minor confusion stuff. He's doing the tracking spells. Grover's really leveling up and becoming a true asset to the team.
He's working on his craft.
Yeah. Zoe then unfortunately says that the security guards are not their biggest worry, and she tells them all to look. And then narrator Percy says the following: through the glass walls of the museum, I could see a group of men walking across the lawn, gray men in gray camouflage outfits. They were too far away for us to see their eyes, but I could feel their gaze aimed straight at me. Percy says, go, and he says that they're hunting him. He says that he's going to distract them, selfless King Percy Jackson, but Zoe says, no, we go together. And that's huge because Zoe, earlier in this chapter, basically told Percy to get lost.
Yeah, kick rocks, dude.
Right. So Percy is in utter disbelief, even starts to say, but you said, but then Zoe says, and this is the way this chapter ends, and it's how I'll end this episode, and man, big 180 on Zoe for me here. Quote, you are part of this quest now, And she says it, and I didn't even know this was a word. The narrator says that Zoe said it grudgingly. What's the difference between grudgingly and begrudgingly?
That's a fantastic question.
Both adverbs, grudgingly and begrudgingly, also have similar definitions. Grudgingly is when we show a lack of desire or resentment. Begrudgingly is a way to behave that is reluctant or envious. So I guess begrudgingly is like one step worse than grudgingly?
Yeah, I feel like either could have worked in this situation.
Yeah. This one came from 1minuteenglish.org. At least
Thank
better
you,
than Masterclass.
1minuteenglish.org.
That feels more apt.
Masterclass.
So, grudgingly, she says, "You are part of this quest now." And then she continues, "I do not like it, but there is no changing fate. You are the 5th quest member, and we are not leaving anyone behind. You in italics. Let's go." Oh, man. I knew that this was going to happen. I love that this has happened. Now I have to readjust all of my guesses for all of the things. And let me see if I can pull it up real quick on my very legal PDF. But what are your thoughts as I frantically Control F my way to find the part where the prophecy takes place?
Well, now we've clicked into motion, right? Like now we've clicked into the machine is whirring, the band is fully together, and we're going on the most consequential part of our mission because we have the team assembled. Percy, the main character, is now going to be part of the main story. And up until this point in the book, of course, it's been very entertaining and they've done a lot of character development. I feel like it hasn't kicked into motion to start resolving some of the questions that it's asked.
Mm-hmm.
And now that everybody's together, headed in this, rowing in the same direction, so to speak, I feel like that's Rick's way of saying to you, all right, now you're going to start to get some of those answers. And that's a really satisfying feeling as a reader. It just makes you want to continue to read on, as I did once I finished this chapter, even though I knew that I was only talking about up to chapter 10. I was like, you know what? I'm just going to finish the book. I'm just going to power straight through and finish it.
It's hard for me to stop. It's especially hard because...
Well, you're getting paid to stop. I can keep going.
I do say, I'm glad you pointed out because people are always like, oh my God, how do you have the will to stop? It's like, it makes the podcast better if I do. And the podcast is my job.
The log line of the podcast is how he has the will to stop.
The premise of the show. But yeah, it's cool. We're halfway through the book and now we can clearly see, all right, now we know the full direction. We've got the prophecy. Yes. We know everyone in play. Here's how Percy fits in. Because a couple of chapters ago, I was confused. How does Percy fit into the whole mix? Is he just going to follow him the whole time? How long is he going to be able to keep that up? But now it's like, oh, okay, here we go. So let's go back to the prophecy and we'll end this episode by me trying to change my guesses. Now that we know who's there and what's up.
Yep.
5 shall go west to the goddess in chains. Artemis, we know what's up. 1 shall be lost in the land without rain. I feel like, given what we know now about Zoe, I could see being lost in the land without rain either being Bianca or Thalia. Don't think it's Grover because he was lost in the last book. Don't think it's Percy because he's the main character and now he's like fully on the quest. The Bane of Olympus shows the trail. We already know what's going on. Campers and hunters combined prevail. We already got that. The Titan's curse must alone stand. We don't know what it is, but one is going to do it. So I feel like maybe... I mean, that could honestly be anybody at this point. Anyone could withstand the curse. I just don't even know what the curse is, so I don't know who it makes sense. I could see, nah, I don't think the Titan's curse is the skeletons. That doesn't feel like the Titan's curse. That doesn't feel like a curse. So if I had to guess...
Feels like a bad time.
Yeah, I mean, I
Not
guess
a curse.
If I had to guess someone, I would just say Percy just for now. Because he's very much one to kind of like sacrifice himself and he's got this going on. So I feel like my best guess is probably Percy. And one shall perish by a parent's hand. I would guess that would be Zoe. So if I got to pick somebody for getting lost in the rain, I would say Bianca. And then maybe she finds her way back to camp or something. And then we move along with Grover. But it does say campers and hunters combined prevail. And that's plural. So maybe Thalia. Yeah, I don't think Thalia is going to die. So how about Thalia gets lost in the land without rain? And then we've got Grover. Oh, and that would be why it's campers and not heroes or demigods. So I think Thalia gets lost in the land without rain. The campers and hunters prevail would be the final 4 of Zoe, Bianca, Grover, Percy. Percy has to withstand the Titan's curse. Maybe the zombies are the Titan's curse and he's just withstanding it. He's got to deal with it for the whole time. And then Zoe dies at a parent's hand, which might be Kronos or the general. Not really sure. Those are my new guesses. And that's the end of this episode of The Newest Olympian. Thank you for just smiling and not saying anything. All you can do here, Bobby, this was such a blast.
Tongue-tied, my dude. Tongue-tied.
Great song. Thank you for being on the show.
Group love reference. I like it.
Mm-hmm. If people want to find you doing stuff, where can they find you doing stuff?
They can find me on Tipping Pitches, a podcast about baseball, a podcast about labor. You could find my work at The Ringer. Anywhere you get podcasts, I produce The Big Picture, a movie podcast over there. And you can follow me on Twitter at bwags, BWAGS.
Much like we referenced with horse being a primer to basketball, tipping pitches is a great primer to baseball and also how to properly trash talk billionaires and be pro-union. It's a good learning experience.
Trash talking billionaires is very important to me. So if that's something that you think you might like, just give it a shot.
You don't even have to like the baseball element, honestly.
We don't talk that often about games.
Yeah.
To be honest.
It is usually trashing Bob Castellini and his carrot empire.
Yes. We just had our 5-year anniversary of the Tipping Pitches podcast, which is really wild for me to say that I've been a podcaster for 5 years. And we did an episode where we did 5 predictions for the next 5 years of baseball. So if that's something that sounds interesting to you, 5 for 5 for 5 is the title of that episode, and maybe go check it out.
I think it's pretty cool that you predicted the Yankees would win 5 straight. I appreciate that very much.
That's exactly what I said. And I said that everybody would come around and think that the Yankees were very cool and fun.
They are cool
and not
and
villainous
fun.
at all.
That
was my first
fun.
prediction, actually.
Oh, well, anyway, we got to go. We have pizza to eat, and it's the end of the episode. Until next time we figure out whatever is going on with the next chapter, which I don't even know what it's called. No clue what's going on. We'll see the aftermath of what lies ahead. But until then, I'll see you later. Hey, thanks so much for listening to this episode of The Newest Olympian. This podcast is created, hosted, and produced by me, Mike Schubert. I also run the social media and the website. Our editor is Sherry Guo. The music is by Bettina Campamanes and Brandon Grugel, and the art is by Jessica E. Boyd. In case you haven't heard, we have lots of TNO live shows coming up. Some of them have streaming components. You can get tickets to all of those upcoming shows at thenewestolympian.com/live. If you're all caught up in the show and you just can't get enough, I'd recommend checking out our Patreon. At thenewestolympian.com/Patreon, you can get access to a bunch of bonus content. You'll also be able to watch that Hades the video game stream that Stephen Parra and I are doing / have done, depending on when you're listening to this. And you'll also get access to our Discord community, which is a lot of fun. If you're looking to find other communities that aren't linked to the Patreon, you can find us on social media. We're at Newest Olympian on Twitter, Instagram, and Facebook. And we also have a subreddit, reddit.com/r/thenewestolympian. And I also just launched a TikTok that is being run by Sherry. It's at Newest Olympian as well. I'd also love to give a big shout out to our producer level patrons: Lotta Bartova, Kelsey Gillespie, The Damn Steam Nuggets, Emma Cooey, Vicky Garcia, Ellie Hoskovchova, Veronica Bartova, Haley Hastings, Robin Garcia, Frida Vikstrom, Megan Moon, Tough Bayfong, Mumu Productions, Olivia Y, Craig McRoberts, Taylor Payne, Giselle Salvador, Can't I Seaweed Brain, Peter Johnson the Twin, Sabrina Balsiger, Boney Pony, Heather McMillan, Casey Williams, Polly Burge, Nikki Harris, Tatiana Schmidt, Sandra Rose, Bridget Lowry, Josh Sayer, Josh Wilkie, Abby Ryan, Wise Girl, Ashton Gabrielson, Colby, Marco Redhouse, Falcon Joey, James, Christopher William Boucher, Lux, Caden Max, Sam Reeby, Carly Allen, Riley Kiedis, Mary Kelly, Audra McKenzie, Mrs. O'Leary, Aaron Wood, Tyler Hendricks, Molly Snyder, Rodith Kalna, Milo Kim, Fred Cabras, Harlan Christ, CC Reeds 23, Sandkopf, Julia Kendall, Emil Oscar Thomason, Noah Bundgaard, Liz Cardigan, Shatsa Bobs, Heck Emily, and Miss Zeus's kid. If you want to help out the show non-monetarily, the best way to do so is via word of mouth. Whether you tell someone about the show who you think would like the show, someone who loves Percy Jackson, or someone who's been looking for an excuse to read Percy Jackson, or if you talk about us on social media, or if you leave us a rating and review on whatever podcasting app you're using, any of those help, and I appreciate anyone who has done or will do those in the future. But I'm just so thankful that you tuned into this episode, and I hope you tune into our next episode, where we will be covering Chapter 11 of The Titan's Curse with special guest Melissa Anelli. But until then, I'll Percy you later. Hey everyone, how's it going? It's me, ASMR Mike. So I'm currently recording this in my bedroom and my parents are in town. My dad has a couple of different bottles and stuff out from our day at the US Open tennis tournament. And I'm just going to open and close some various lids and stuff. So here is Purell hand sanitizer. Here are some free samples of sunscreen that we got. It's a screw top. I don't know if that's being heard. Here's my dad's sunglasses case. Here is a water bottle that I got from the place where we performed the live show in Philly. It's me. Oh, I just broke it. So that's cool. That's very fun. Good thing great decision me. Don't worry, I just fixed it. And here's another thing of sunscreen that my dad got in Dwayne Reed. Thank you so much. I have no idea which of those will sound like anything, but there we are. Thank you for listening.